Well, good evening. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Steve, and I am Linda's husband, Reverend the Rector of the South Leitrim group of parishes. For those of you who've been following what we've been doing over the last couple of weeks, last week, we've been concentrating on mental health, which is particularly poignant in this time of lockdown when we're all in different situations. So I've been asked to just tell a little bit of my story regarding mental health and well-being. So to set the scene, I grew up as a young man a long time ago with fairly set views that anyone who had problems in that sort of way basically had never become a Christian properly, and if they got their salvation sorted out, everything else would be sorted out. A very naive and simplistic view, and over time obviously I've come to see that things are very different. But I do remember an incident many years ago when I was discussing with another person the situation of a person in the church, and who had severe psychiatric problems. And I will never forget the minute we were sort of decrying this person's state, and the minister, I remember, challenged us and said, when this person is sound, in the sound mind, do they confess to believe, and do they appear to have faith? And we couldn't deny that they did. And so the minister said, well, as far as I'm concerned, that's the end of the matter. And I do remember that incident as a young man. Anyway, so life goes on, and married and grown-up family and all of the different things that come to pass as we deal with life. As some of you know then, a couple of years ago, in 2018, I had a heart attack. Well, two heart attacks, but one serious one. But for the fact that I was in the hospital at the time and there was rapid intervention, I probably wouldn't be here now talking to you. So that was obviously a big shock to the system. I was working at the time as a paramedic with the HSE ambulance service, a job that I really loved and got great satisfaction from. So anyway, after the heart attack, there began the period of recovery physically, which was, in a sense, the easy part of it. It was just a matter of doing what you were told and working back one's health. But I remember not very long after it happened thinking to myself that I knew I would never be back on the road as a frontline paramedic again, and I had that sense myself. But after various appointments with occupational health and the different bodies involved, I was officially made redundant, laid off, retired on health grounds from the ambulance service. And it was very strange, because although I sort of knew it would happen or whatever, I will never forget the day I got the letter actually saying, in the opinion of the health board, I'm permanently incapacitated. It came as a real shock that I wasn't expecting, and it began a journey, as it were, a recovery journey in my head, which took much more out of me than the physical recovery. It was a sense that I was no more of any use to society. I'd finished what was I meant to do, and I think it's particularly true for menfolk that we are very much defined by what we do, and it gives us a status and a standing, and it is something which is important in our own well-being. So I went through a process of really grieving for losing the life that I had, and I entered into, for a number of months, what I can see now was quite a dark time. And there was mornings when I would remember waking up and it was like looking into blackness. I couldn't see what was the point, what was I here for. And on extreme days there would be times where I would think, well, perhaps it would have been better if I hadn't made it. Very selfish, but very real as well at the time. And how did I make progress out of that, and what did I learn from it? Well, three things I think were the things that came to me. One is I've come to see more and more that honesty is so important. To be honest with ourselves, and to be honest with God, and to be honest with our friends and those that we trust. Not to try to ignore our feelings. I think it's sometimes and I would have been one who sometimes felt it was some negative emotions were wrong in themselves. But I came to see that emotions are just a result of something happening. Even if you stub your toe and there's pain, the pain is because you stubbed your toe. And emotions are the same. Emotions come, and it's not the emotions that are wrong, but it's what do we do with the emotions, and how do I handle the emotions? That was the big thing I had to learn. So to be honest with myself, to say, look, this is how I feel. I feel really rough today. I'm struggling big time. And to talk to God and not try to pretend that everything was rosy in the garden when it wasn't. That was a very important lesson, and something that as I've thought about more, and it's seen for us perhaps if we look in the book of Psalms, and you see at some points David's rejoicing, other times he's moaning, sometimes he's giving out about his enemies, and I used to struggle to understand this because it seemed so inconsistent. And yet I have come to see that it's the journey of a person, it's a journey of a man, and all of us go through different emotions, and we need to be honest with our emotions. Another thing that I learned in this time was how important it is to develop good habits and a routine. To lie in bed was a disaster. My mind would just go round and round and spiral downwards. I found so beneficial to physically get up, to go down, to have a read, to read the Bible and to pray. And it might sound simple, but it works. It worked for me, just to put into a routine. And I found then once I got up, once I'd had a read, had a pray, the day took on a brighter tone. So that was the second lesson I learned, that to look after my own well-being was to develop habits and not to let my mind dwell on the negative, but to make a definite act of doing something. And then the other thing that helped me a lot and I learned was the need to talk to somebody. And I had a very good friend, a brother in the Lord, who I could talk to, and that was a big help. And as time went on, and I became more confident to express myself and to lay bare how I was really feeling, then obviously I began to be able to talk to Linda, my wife, more about these things, and not to seek to pretend that everything was okay when it wasn't. And it's not something that suddenly one day I woke up and everything was right. It was a process, and some days you would go for a few good days and then have a really difficult day, or wake up with in a very dark place. So just a few thoughts on my journey into wellness, not so much the physical wellness, but the mental wellness, the wellness in one's mind to come through a traumatic time, and to find a direction and a purpose and a way forward for the next phase of my life, however many years the Lord will grant me. So they were really the three things that I would just share with you as we think about mental health, would be the necessity, the value to be honest with yourself, to be honest with God, and to be honest with your friends, and to find those people that you can be honest with. The other one was to make definite habits to do something, not just to wallow in feelings of negativity and feelings of despair and feelings of uselessness and feelings of pointlessness, but to actually get up, as I did in the morning, get up and get into a habit of reading and praying in a definite sense, was very helpful. And the other one was to find somebody that you could talk to and say just exactly how you were feeling. And that was something that was, to begin with, very scary, because I thought, well, this person will find out what I'm really like. And perhaps I'd like to thought that I could portray some sort of image of somebody who had it together, whereas in this process I was not together at all. I was losing it in some ways. So just as we think about mental health in these couple of weeks, that's just a short testimony, and I hope that's helpful to some people as they struggle with issues that could result from some traumatic experience. I wouldn't recommend a heart attack, but or some other event that's happened in life, and it has a result. And so often our body can pass through something, but it takes a while for our head to go on the journey too. So thanks very much. I hope that's helpful, and God bless, and we'll continue in the South Leitrim group anyway to be just continuing to think about mental health, and our mental health and the mental health of others over the next few days. So goodbye and God bless.